Well, tensions boiling over at the Democratic National Committee after President-elect Donald Trump's surprise victory over Hillary Clinton. Tempers reportedly flaring at a post-election meeting inside the DNC, with many pointing the fingers at the interim chair, Donna Brazile. Now a leadership battle is brewing at the DNC, so who's going to come out on top? Now, here to weigh in is a great guest to talk about this, Lauren Chivee. She's the CEO of All In Together, a women's nonprofit, and the author of Crossing the Thinnest Line. Lauren, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
So give us a sense. Where is the DNC going, and what is the nexus of this crisis?
Well, I think the fundamental question after the election is really who is the heart of the future of the party, and how will Democrats win back a larger share of the country. I mean, the blue wall definitely broke. I'm certainly someone who was surprised by that. I believed that we had states like Pennsylvania fairly locked up, and, you know, Ohio is always a question, but, you know, it has been sort of a shock for many who've been around for a while. And I think this question of moving more towards the progressive arm of the party, the Sanders arm of the party, which I would have said 6 months ago was unlikely, I think more and more is going to be essential if we want to win back more American states.
So in some ways, the Democratic primary was a preview of this battle. You've got the more establishment wing, Howard Dean, some others running against a candidate backed by the progressive wing. Who do the progressives like, folks like Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren? Who do they like, and what are the chances of that person being picked?
Well, I do think we are going to see some strong Sanders supporters stepping forward to run for chair. I actually, in the list, the current list that I've seen floating around, there are no women on the list, which I think is unfortunate. I'd love to see somebody like Tulsi Gabbard, who's the Democratic Congresswoman from Hawaii, who had been vice chair and stepped down when she wanted to support Bernie Sanders. She's a young member of Congress, Iraq vet, has her finger on the pulse of a lot of what's happening in the country. So I'd love to see more women stepping forward.
The name being floated that we see is Keith Ellison, Congressman
Tom
from
Perez
Minnesota.
Also.
What do you think about him? He comes with his set of baggage as well, though.
You know, it's a really interesting possibility. There is a big push for him. There's been a petition circulating to get him to run. I certainly think it's a fascinating dimension because he's a Sanders supporter, was an early Sanders supporter, but also brings some of the minority perspective to the race. I really think the Democrats have to get a deeper understanding and pulse on, you know, white rural voters across the country who used to vote Democrat, who've been lost to the party. I don't know if he's the guy.
So that's an interesting challenge. So if you're trying to reach white, disenfranchised, working class voters, do you go with the first Muslim American congressman who called George W. Bush Hitler and is seen as anti-Israel with many of his stances? I mean, it feels like a disconnect.
It's complicated, and I think there's two sides to this. I mean, the other question is voter turnout among minorities in this race was lower than it was in 2012. Sure. And if Democrats, you know, can turn out minority votes in larger numbers, that's another path to victory, which many Democrats thought was there for this race. So, you know, there's kind of two spectrums. There's no easy answer here. No. I personally believe that we have to reach out more significantly to white rural voters who've been lost to the party.
White rural voters, some might say maybe Howard Dean's another name being floated, right? Do you go backwards to go forward?
I don't think so. I mean, that's the concern, is that if we've learned anything in this, if anyone has learned anything in this election, it's that the future is not the past. Americans are desperate for fresh perspective and new blood to the parties, and I'm concerned that if we bring back, you know, if the Democrats bring back somebody who's been around for decades, that is just not the right message.
How about Martin O'Malley, another name being floated?
I mean, you know, he didn't run a successful campaign himself. I'm not sure he's the right voice. You know, I don't think he has the kind of popular support around the country, but if he's a good organizer and he can rally people, maybe. I think it's time for some fresh faces really up and down the ballot in every part of the party.
We only have a quick second, but the election slated to happen in March. Would you like to see it happen sooner, turn the page sooner, or is this going to draw out all the way?
You know, no. I think everyone needs some time to digest. You know, we're barely getting through the data. The votes have not even all been completely counted. I think it's going to require time, frankly, for the Republicans as well. And I think the Republicans are going to continue to ask some questions as well about the future of the party. Just even having won, we all need time to process all the complex implications of this election.
Especially because decisions like a trajectory of a party have huge implications going forward. So, Lauren Chivee, thanks for helping us dissect that this morning.